Here we are on the front of our 3700 FL Keystone Alpine. We're going to do a technical walkthrough on our unit just like your technician did on the date of delivery, touching on some of the components on it and going into a little bit of detail. If you want more information on these brand units, or maybe your unit has a slightly different one, you can find that on our YouTube channel for Great American RV under the HAPS Helpful Hacks section playlist. Now we're going to start in the front here. We have our 7-way plug. That 7-way plug is going to transfer all of our lights, our blinkers, our brake lights, all those things from our truck onto our trailer. It also carries a charge line for our battery system. While your alternator is running on your truck, it will charge the batteries while you're traveling. And lastly, it also has the brake control wire from your brake controller to the brakes, activating the brakes whenever it is needed. Now also on here we have our breakaway line. That breakaway line needs to be attached to either a tie down in the truck or maybe the pins where that fifth wheel hitch is attached to the bed. We just don't want to hook it to like the fifth wheel hitch head or the handle, because the intent is if any of that ever fails, for this pin to pull out of here and activate the brakes on your trailer and bring it to a safe stop. Now if we always need to make sure wherever we hook it, it's not going to get tangled up or anything like that. So this is our front storage compartment. We'll start here. Up here is our transfer switch. That transfer switch is if you were ever to install a generator on here. It's going to transfer the power from your generator into the unit or from your shore power into the unit, depending on which one you are using at the time. This black box up top is our prep for our inverter system. If we were to have an inverter installed on our unit, that inverter can change our 12 volts from our battery into 110 voltage for our inverted outlets to give us power to be able to run some small appliances in our unit. That silver box right there is our prep for our generator wiring going to our transfer switch. Down here on the bottom we can see our docking light switch that operates the LEDs on the front cap. Here we have our smart solar controller. This is to transfer the solar power we get from our panels on the roof into charging voltage for our battery system. The system will operate automatically, nothing you need to mess with. We do have a disconnect down here on the bottom for that smart solar system. If we choose we want to shut off that solar package and not use it, we can just turn this to that off position. That will disconnect the solar system only. Now behind it we have this black box with a red knob on it. That is our battery disconnect. Our battery disconnect literally disconnects our batteries from our camper, so it won't kill the batteries if we store our unit. When we're unplugged, we have nothing to charge those batteries, then this will disconnect it so it doesn't drain them. So once again, we store our unit unplugged and we don't have solar access, or we do have solar access, we want to shut that off, so we're cutting out the 12 volts on our unit and we're not allowing those batteries to discharge. If we are storing our unit plugged in, we want that switch on. That way our converter system will charge the batteries. A converter is basically a battery charger. It changes 110 volts to 12 volts charging, and it helps keep our batteries up. So leave it on when stored plugged in, leave it off when stored unplugged. When you disconnect that battery disconnect, it does not affect your solar, so that solar still will trickle charge those batteries even if you disconnect there. Here we have our pump station for our hydraulic leveling system. Our pump motor right here, when they talk about overriding the pump, this is your pump. That access panel will be right up here on top through there. And this is our fluid reservoir. Our fluid reservoir, we need to check the level on that every now and again, but we need to make sure that all of our hydraulic components are retracted. That includes slide outs and all of our leveling jacks, including our front landing gears, before we check the proper level on this. If we don't do that, a lot of that hydraulic fluid will be in the lines and in the jack and not deposited in here, so it'll make it look like it is low. And if we add some to it and we retract everything, all that fluid's going to come and make a mess in this front compartment. Now this is a 12 volt operated pump. We can see right back here we do have a 12 volt breaker for this pump system, so if it's not operating, we want to go check that breaker first. We also have some inline fuses up there behind the pump as well in the event that your touchscreen and stuff is not operating. Our compartment to the right is prep for our generator. If we want to install one, we can have that installed there. Here we are on the passenger side of our unit. We can see we have a front slide right here. Both of our front slides, as well as our bedroom slide, are going to be cable-driven slides. Our kitchen area and our dinette area are both hydraulic slides. If you want information on either one of those slides, you can find that in our Helpful Hacks playlist on YouTube. In our front area right here, we have our touchscreen panel that will operate our landing gears and perform our auto level stuff. We'll go over that information now. You should also have information for it right here in that LP door. Let's touch on that touchscreen right now. So here we are on that base camp touchscreen for our Titan jacks. We can see at the bottom left corner we have a quick shortcut to turn our lights off and on the jacks themselves. If we hit this question mark right here, we have a QR code, which can generally also be found in that LP compartment or one of the other doors. You'll see that sticker, and it's going to bring you to literature on these specific Titan jacks. It'll run you through the same stuff that I'm gonna run you through. It'll also go over information on how to override these jacks in the event that your pump fails and how to manually retract them or extend them. So moving in, we can see our default pin, which is from the factory, 5241. And we hit the green check and we're on it. So immediately we're gonna go into our options to start off with. I'm gonna show you that if we go into our current level, this is going to tell us what the level of our unit is. If we go into auto level, this is going to be our different set points. We'll go over that information here shortly. If we go to jack lights off and on, we can adjust the brightness and the timer on how long we want them to run. Turn them off and on here. We have our different modes, our manual mode, which is if we want to manually extend or retract the jacks. We click that screen again. Our front jacks are going to run simultaneously. You can't do those individually. You'll hit extend and retract. If we want to turn those off, click them again. We can do our rear individually, left or right, and extend or retract. Get out of that screen. Go back into our options and modes. We have our arrival. Now these are the different screens that you're going to see dependent on where you are in your camping trip. So arrival is right when you get to the campground. The system detects all your jacks are up, so it's going to assume that you are arriving, and it'll come up with the bigger option of extending land gear, retracting landing gear, and then auto level, which are the options that you would generally use right when you arrive at the campsite. Our next mode is our auto level. It's just going to give you the different set points here of what auto levels we can go to. Now we have our factory set auto level, which is going to be our 0 point null. It's what we consider level by the factory. They take a 4-foot level, put it in the unit. Now if you find where the factory setting is off or not to your desire, you can hit this 3 dots up here at the top right, and that will bring you to be able to change that setting. We hit change, and just like our manual mode, we can select the jacks that we want to extend and retract and get a 4-foot level, put it in your unit, and you can adjust it. When you're done, you'll hit set and it will save that factory setting. Now, every time you go to auto level from that point, that will be the setting that it goes to. Now you have your set points 1, 2, and 3. This is for options such as maybe you're storing your unit. Let's say that's what we want our set point 1 at. We can hit those 3 dots on the side and we can change it. And let's say we want to nose down our camper or nose up our camper so the water will run off of our unit. We can put these jacks whatever formation we want and kick it up within a 5-degree slant. It won't do over that. And it won't save that set point. So keep that in mind. If it doesn't save, you're probably out of that 5-degree margin. Once it's set, it'll bring you out of that screen. And now when you hit set point 1, it'll go to that nose up or nose down position, whatever you chose it to be. Now set point 2 and set point 3 can be whatever you desire, the same thing. So let's say, you know, these campers are heavy on your truck sometimes, and you have to pull up to a dump station to dump, and you're nose down, and you have a pipe that points to the back of the unit, so all that water isn't really draining out of the pipe. You can do set point 2 for your front landing gears, just lifting the camper up enough to add a little slope to it, and allow that water to drain the rest of the way out of that pipe. So you can be creative and have whatever options you want set in there. Our last mode is our departure mode. This would be after you've auto leveled and everything, you're ready to go home. This is likely the screen that's going to pop up. So we would return to hitch height. Now this height is going to be the height that you were at just before you hit auto level. Generally that height is going to be where your truck disconnected from your camper, so your hitch should go back up to that hitch height, and when you press that button it's going to hit that point. Now we can extend and retract manually to adjust that if we're a little bit off, and when we're done, we're hooked up to our truck, we know that that hitch is secure, everything is good, we can hit retract all and all of our jacks will come up. Our next option in here is dark theme or light theme. We can go ahead and choose that option. That just changes the background of our screen. Now, like I said, every time you open this up, if you've done something different, it's going to generally have a different screen based on what the level of those jacks are. So like I said, we unlocked it here and it comes to that extend landing gear. Basically it's saying we're in arrival mode. If we went into auto level and the screen blacked out after that, we came back to it, it's probably going to have auto hitch height as that option. So whatever the screen pops up to, you have the option to go into a different one by going into options, then modes, and it's going to once again bring you to a different screen. We can run manual mode, we can run our auto level mode. No matter what, you can get to any of these screens. It's very repetitive. You just have to go through the options and get them. Otherwise, it's going to suggest what option you want next in order to run your jacks. Now, you can also hook this up to your Bluetooth on your phone. We'll show you how to do that next. So this is the tag that I mentioned earlier that you can generally find in one of your compartment doors. And if not, you can find it on the actual brains of the auto leveling system, generally found in that front storage compartment or your pass-through compartment on your unit. So what we want to do is download our LCI One Control app. We can scan this QR code right here. This will bring us to the App Store to download that app. Once we've done that, you'll have to enter a series of information, including the make, model, and year of your unit, as well as your VIN number. Once you've done that, you'll scan this QR code right here, and this will grant you access to the system. Then it's going to ask you for a password. You'll enter your password into the system, and then it'll bring you into the options to be able to control that app. Now, we do have the information on that app. It is pretty repetitive to that screen. It gives you a few more options in there. We have more information on the full video on our Titan system. Next is our LP compartment. You'll see we have dual propane tanks as well as a dual propane regulator. That dual propane regulator has that selector switch. You can turn it and choose which tank you want to pull off of. You want to have both of those tanks open, and what it'll do is it'll use the primary tank that you have selected until it runs dry. Once it runs dry, it will give a red indicator letting you know that it's empty, and it will start pulling from that secondary tank, of course, until it runs dry too. But it's seamless, it won't. But the idea is it's seamless and it will not interrupt your LP use unless both tanks are emptied out. Behind that system, we have our convenience center right here. This is where we're going to hook up all of our water system. Let's go over that right now. Here we are in our convenience center. We have our Key TV system. Key TV system is identified with this power light right here to let you know it's on. Here is where we will hook up our satellite port. If we have an external satellite that we want to hook up, we can run that cable through the floor of this here and hook it up here. If we install a satellite on the roof, we can take this wire here and hook it here. That wire is already pre-ran to the roof. And here is where we'll hook up our cable from our campground. And that will all run into where our TVs are on the interior. Now we notice here we have our 2 tank flushes. These tank flushes are for our black tanks. We'll cover that when we get to that sewer area. Just know that that's where they are for now. Here we have our exterior shower port. We can hook that quick connect up for our coiled hose and have outside shower for our hot and cold. Now our freeze guard winterization system, this is for when we are prepping for our winter time. We would come to these hot and cold low point drains right here. We would pull that tab and we would drain all the water out of our unit. Now after that, we would turn our winterization valve right here to the on position, and then we would hook a hose up to this and then into our RV antifreeze, and then we can turn on our water pump and begin to fill our unit with RV antifreeze to prepare it for the winter time. Now any other time, normal operation, we're going to have that winterize option off. That way our system will work properly for dry camping or city water. Now moving on to that, we have our city water connection right here. If we were at the campground and we do have a water hookup, we can run that water hose through here and hook up to our city water connection, and then that would supply water to all of our ports on the inside for our faucets and toilets. Now if we don't have that connection and we want to fill our freshwater tank, because we're going to use that 12-volt pump in order to supply water to our fixtures, because we don't have a water hose at the campsite, we're going to hook our water hose up right here at our house. Then we're going to power tank fill. So we're going to drop down to this fill location here, and this is going to begin to fill up our fresh tank. We'll go to that monitor level on the inside of that touchscreen and find out where we want that water level to be, whether it be half full, all the way full, whatever. Then we'll turn our water off. From there, we go back to normal flow. Then we go on the inside, turn that 12-volt water pump on, and it will pull from the fresh tank and emit water to all of our fixtures. So we'll use this if we are dry camping. Next behind that is our Girard tankless water heater system. This is an LP component, and it is on demand. So it's only going to operate whenever you turn your water on. It is endless hot water, and this system is operational by the panel on the inside. We'll go over the instructions of that when we get in there. Behind that is our furnace. Our furnace is another gas LP operated system. This is how your unit will be heated, and it will exhaust right here. You'll have some hot air blowing out of there, and that metal will get hot, so be aware of that whenever you're around it. Your system is pre-wired with the Furrion backup and side camera system. If you were to upgrade to that camera system, that option is available. Now down here at the bottom, we do have our sewer hose holder. This is a pipe we can go ahead and put our sewer hose in to store it whenever we're on the road. Now we were also talking about our fresh tank system. Our fresh tank is that onboard water storage for when we're dry camping. You do have the drain spout down here at the bottom. You'll see it sticking out of the underbelly. Under the J-wrap here, you'll see a little gray handle right there. You'll pull that handle, and that is how you will drain out that freshwater tank. Remember, we only want to keep water in there if we need it. We don't want to leave it in there for long periods of time and allow it to get stagnant. The more water you put in there, the more weight you have. So try to estimate how much you need, and if you need it at all. And if you don't, drain it out. On our kitchen slide, we'll notice a vent up here. It does have a couple little turn tabs on it to be able to lock it. This needs to be open when we use that exhaust fan vent over our stovetop. If you want to ventilate out, you need to turn those two tabs and open it up. That's intended to be able to close it whenever you store your unit. That way no rodents, insects, or anything will build a nest. We'll notice below our bedroom slide, our very first compartment here, we have our valves for all of our tank systems. Our two black tanks as well as our two gray tank valves are all in there. And down here is where our connection is for our sewer hose. So we'll hook up our sewer hose connection right here and have our either our dump station, or if the campsite we're at has a dump station located at it, we go ahead and hook that hose up. Now, of course, if you're dry camping and you have to go to a dump station, we're going to leave those valves closed all the time until we're ready to dump. If you have a sewer station at the campsite you're at, you want to leave your gray tank open all the time so that water can flow out. Of course, it's your choice. If you want to wait until it's full to dump it, you can certainly do that. But as long as that hose connection is hooked up, that gray tank can be left open all the time. That's your sink water from your kitchen. That's also your shower and sink water from your bathrooms. Now your black tank, however, comes from your toilet. That's everything that gets put down that toilet, sewage, water, toilet paper, all those things. That tank, no matter what, needs to stay closed all the time until we're ready to dump that system. Now we talked about our black tank flush there in the front. This is where that comes in. We have our sewer hose hooked up. We're going to pull that black tank valve and we're going to empty out our tank system. Once it's done draining, go ahead and turn on that black tank flush and flush that system out. Now you may have to do it several times before the meter on the inside will read empty. There's a couple of little tricks to that. We do have that video in our helpful hacks section if you want to go over that. But the idea is you don't want to leave that tank open, because if so, the water will drain out and the solids that get put in there will dry up and it will damage your tank and your sensors. So we want to make sure that we're leaving liquids in that tank. And after we flush our system, we still want to leave some clean water in there as well as our chemicals as well. So once we get done flushing out our system, close that valve out, and we can either put a couple of gallons of water in through our black tank flush. We just need to make sure we monitor that panel, or we can close that valve and go on the inside to our toilet, hold that valve down there, and put a couple of gallons of water there as well. Make sure we're putting those chemicals in there as you travel down the road. The chemicals and the water will help clean that tank a little bit more, and it will help keep it nice and clean and smelling right. Moving towards the rear of our unit, we have our power cord reel for our 50 amp service. We're ready to plug in. We pull that cord out. We can plug it into our campsite. Now, one thing we want to remember is we want to make sure that our AC system and everything is off on here so we don't have any surges to those appliances whenever we plug it in. Ready to retract, we'll unplug that cord. We'll hold down our retract button and reel that up. Also on the rear of our unit, we have our Keystone camera ready system. Once again, along with that Furion turn camera signal, we can add a backup camera onto our unit. We also have a tow hitch back here. That is for a cargo carrier. It's not intended to be able to tow trailers behind you. That you'll notice that it doesn't have the tow hook holes or the wiring for the lights. So this is only for a carriage to be able to add onto the back. We also have our factory supply ladder back here to be able to have access to our roof. This is important because we need to check our roof after every trip for any low-lying tree limbs or anything that might have poked holes in the rubber up there. We also need to make sure that our sealants are being maintained every 60 to 90 days. It's very important we do this so we don't allow water entry into our unit to damage it. We also have sealants around all of our corners, our compartment doors, our lights, everywhere on our unit. We have sealants roof and sidewalls and everywhere else. So make sure we're checking all of these sealants every 60 to 90 days. This is considered customer maintenance. Just like changing the oil in your car, you're maintaining your camper to make sure it lasts for years to come. Manufacturers will not participate in any repairs if this maintenance has not been done on a regular basis. So make sure you're taking care of your camper properly. Here on the passenger side of our unit, right here we'll see our solar on the side plug. This is if we store our camper maybe in a cover or we're covered by trees and we still want to get that solar. We can buy a separate solar panel and plug it in right there, and it'll go through to that solar charge controller. Now here we have our battery storage. This is where we'll hook our batteries up and have them stored right there. And behind that we have our front storage compartment. You'll find your in-command control center. So this is where the brains of that touchscreen panel on the interior are. There are some overrides for that. We cover those in-command systems in another video. Keystone also provides some great videos for that information as well. In here, you'll also find this crank handle right here. This crank handle is to get your spare tire down. You'll notice towards the rear of your unit where your spare tire is mounted underneath. You'll notice a little bolt sticking out. You put this handle on there and you can crank that spare tire down. We'll also notice in this compartment we do have ports for our Key TV system to put an outdoor television out here. We noticed on the other side that's where our cable hooks in. From here we have our satellite cable and antenna port to be able to hook into the TV. Satellite will go to a receiver first, then a HDMI to the TV, and cable and antenna will be a coax straight to that TV. Also on the side here you have a GFCI protected outlet. If any of these outdoor outlets do not work, you want to go to that GFCI breaker on the interior, usually in the bathroom or kitchen. We'll cover that when we hit the inside. We'll also notice under our pass-through bay we have a quick connect for our LP system. Let's say we want to put an outdoor grill out here, it will pull from those propane tanks that we have installed on the other side. Now we'll notice on our entry door, we'll notice a little resistance on that door. That is a friction controlled hinge. So that is intended that way if the wind blows, anything like that, it's not swinging and slamming that door open or closed. We'll also notice our lippered solid steps. Our lippered solid steps are stored by lifting them up. You do have hydraulic arm assist on here, so it'll help pick them up. We'll lock them in. Usually you want to turn that yellow handle and make sure that both latches lock onto the frame, give it a little tug, and we know it's secure. When we're ready to pull it down, pull that yellow lever, and we're going to pull our steps down. Notice they'll stay. We drop it down and it will be on the ground. Now, after we perform our auto level on our unit and we've leveled it out, next we need to level our steps out. In order to do that, we do have some pins right here on our legs. We pop those pins out and we can adjust our legs where they need to be in order for them to be level. Now, this is important for several reasons. Of course, for the safety of ourselves getting in and out of the unit, but also we want to make sure that our frame isn't hitting the bottom frame of the door when we open and close that door. So this definitely needs to be one of the first things we do after we auto level our unit and we go into entry of our camper. You also notice that we have outdoor speakers under our awning that are controlled by the interior. Our awning has a little bit of information to it. It is a 12-volt powered awning, so if we have any problems, we want to go to that 12-volt fuse panel. Now, another thing about our awning is it is a sunshade only. It is not intended to shield you from the weather, the rain, or anything like that. So if it begins to rain, or you think it's going to rain, or the wind starts blowing hard, you see other people putting their camper canopy in, roll that awning in. If you're leaving, even for a short period of time, best bet is to roll your awning in. The reason being is manufacturers do not cover any damage due to wind or rain or anything of that nature. So make sure that we are using it only for a sunshade. Another piece of information for this awning is that we need to pitch it from one side to the other. This is to allow water runoff off of our roof from dew or from condensation from our AC system, anything like that that may gather on that awning, and it will gather in the middle and it will collapse that awning. So to do that, we have to pitch our awning either to the front or the rear to allow that water to drain off. And we also have a secondary awning on here. We would need to do the same. Now, in order to accomplish that, there are two squeeze tabs up there on that awning arm against the wall. We would squeeze those two tabs together and we just pull down our awning a couple of notches until it is pitched. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a slight degree to allow that water to come off to that angle. We're ready to roll our awning in. We need to go ahead and level it back out and we can roll the awning back in. All right, so here we are in our in-command system. We touch the screen. We're going to be asked for a passcode. That default passcode from the factory is 0000. Now, we can go immediately. We'll start with this, how to change that passcode to something else. If we go into settings right here and we go to passcode, then we can put in our current passcode in there, and then it will pop up with this right here where we can change our passcode, clear passcode if we don't want one, and all type of different options. So that's where that is. So back to our main screen here, we have our tanks up here, our fresh, black, and gray, all multiple. If we tap on that, we can get a different view, but this one gives you an at-a-glance view. If we were to install a generator, of course, we could control that here on our generator option. Our next option would be our awnings, running them in and out. We can also turn the light off there. Our lights, same thing, off and on our lights. I skipped over our slides, but pretty self-explanatory, in and out with all of our slides. Our hitch operates our front landing gears. It'll raise that front end up and down. Our tank heaters, this is where we have our fresh, gray, black, and battery heat. So during real cold temperatures where we're concerned about freezing, we kick these on, just touch it, and it turns on those heating pads on those tanks. Our HVAC system, this is where we want to spend a little bit more time here. Our living room AC and our kitchen AC on this particular model are going to have cool modes only over here on the side. So just to run through it, we'll have fan mode. Of course, that's just the fan. It's only going to push air throughout the camper. It's not going to cool the air in that mode. We can have high and low for that option. And then our cool mode is actually going to cool that air. That's where the compressor is going to kick on. It's going to run. It's going to cool your camper off based on your set point over here to the right. So we can use these arrows to change whatever we want that thermostat to be at. And we have the fan option with the cool option. Our auto fan is going to shut that fan off and on whenever the compressor goes off and on. Now, if we choose that low or high option, for cool mode. That fan is going to run all the time, either in high or low, regardless of whether the compressor is off or on. So that's the only option, like I said, you're going to have on the living room and kitchen AC. Now your bedroom AC, on the other hand, we'll go through fan, cool, just like we talked about. Now we have heat. Now we have a couple options for heat. We have our gas heat. That's going to be our furnace. Now that's going to run throughout the entire unit, and that's going to come out of those floor vents throughout the unit. And once again, gas operated appliance. We choose gas. There's no difference on auto, high, low. It's going to run only when that furnace is initiated. So don't worry about the fan option for heat on gas. And then, of course, we have our set point, what we want that heater to bring the temperature up to. Now, you're also in your bedroom, if equipped, you may have a heat pump on that rear AC in the bedroom. So you would go to electric. Now, this one is going to have an auto, fan, or high option, auto, high, or low option for the fan. Of course, it will, once again, run either when the compressor is off and on or run all the time. Now, here, set point, once again, perfect conditions right here. It's 58 degrees. We're going to set it to 65, 66. A heat pump is only going to knock the chill out. It's also not going to heat the whole camper, and a heat pump is going to come out of that one AC, mainly in that area. You may feel a little bit of air come through the ductwork elsewhere, but it's really just going to do that bedroom area, whatever AC has that heat pump. And like I said, knock the chill out. Don't intend for it to do major wonders in heating your unit. It's simply for mildly chilly, cool temperatures. So if we back out of that and we go into our settings tab, now there's a lot of options in here. We're not going to go through every one of them. We can go in and we can add notifications here for when our fresh tanks get down to 1/3, 2/3. Same thing for our black and grays. As they fill up, if we want to be notified at 2/3 that the tanks are almost full and we need to go dump them, we can set that up. We can also set up the low voltage meter for our battery system. There's a lot of options and customization in here that you can go into with all that stuff. Now, things that I don't suggest going into is like floor plans or calibrations or anything like that, unless advised by in command or a technician whenever you're trying to do some troubleshooting. Now, date and time, sure, you can go into that, customize your date, whatever you want there. Now, our home screen right here, of course, we're going to have our battery voltage down at the bottom. Our water pump is going to be initiated only when we're dry camping. We don't have a city water connection anywhere, and we want to pull from that fresh tank. We kick that water pump on, and that'll pop up there. That is a 12-volt component. That is only intended to be used, once again, when you don't have city water. If you have city water, leave that water pump off so you don't burn it up. If your tanks are empty, or your fresh tank is empty, shut off that pump. You don't want it running during that period. We also have our quick shortcut for our interior and exterior lights. That's pretty much everything on that touchscreen system that you're going to want to know about. If you have any questions or issues with it, Keystone is a call away in helping with the programming for these in-command systems, and they're the best person to call whenever you start having some troubleshooting if you can't bring it to a shop. If you can bring it to the shop, come bring it in and we'll get it figured out. Down below that touchscreen, if we look down here at the bottom, we do have our 110 control center and our fuse panel. This is where all of our breakers are for our 110 system and all our fuses for our 12-volt system. All of them are labeled and they'll tell you exactly what they go to. So if we have a problem with any of our components, we want to go here first and check to make sure that we have the proper power. Located in our unit is also the converter system. That converter system actually charges our battery. So it's essentially a battery charger. Anytime you plug in that 50 amp service, then your system is actually charging those batteries. In our kitchen, we have our Norcold 12-volt refrigerator. In order to operate it, we'll hold down that power button and it will kick on. We have our options to be able to change our temperature settings. Here to the right, we have our first icon, which will be for our lower section, which would be our freezer. If we push that button down, we can then change the settings for that ice box And if we hit the next one, which would be our refrigerator, we can change the settings for that as well. Now our night mode here, right here, is to conserve energy. That's the moon. If we're trying to conserve energy because we don't have that 110 option, we are pulling off of our battery system or using solar, we want to use that option mainly at night. That's assuming that your unit is not going to be opened and closed a lot, so that compressor is going to go into a lower stage of use, knowing that the cool air is going to stay in there for a longer period because nobody's opening and closing that door. So this will help conserve that 12-volt energy whenever you need it. Now, an important maintenance tip on our refrigerator and our freezer is we need to make sure that we are defrosting our freezer section whenever we are not using our unit. So let's say we go to store our unit, we've turned our fridge off, or we're not going to have our disconnect on. Basically, this has no power. We need to make sure we wipe down our refrigerator so we don't have any mold or mildew buildup in there. And our freezer, we need to make sure we defrost so we don't have any standing water in there. If we allow that water to leak out of our system, it can damage our components around it, and that is not going to be covered under warranty. So make sure we're defrosting and caring for our appliances properly. So in our kitchen area, we have our Insignia microwave. It has the fan and exhaust on here. Now remember, the vent we talked about outside, it has to be open whenever we use that fan right there for it to actually exhaust out. Otherwise that fan will run and that air is not going to actually go anywhere. We also have our stovetop, our 4-burner stovetop. In order to operate that, pretty much like your household one, we'll pick our burner, we'll turn it and push that knob down, and eventually our stovetop will light. When we turn it off, we just turn that knob to the right until it turns off. Now our oven is going to work a lot the same way. We use the middle knob, we turn it, and we're going to hold down on that ignition flame until it lights our pilot. We hold that down until the pilot is lit, then we can go ahead and turn it to our temperature mark, and that whole burner tube will light up. If it didn't light up, you're just going to go back and perform that same step again. That pilot might not have been warm enough in order to initiate. Do have a light here on the side that'll give you a little bit of glow on the knobs. And an important thing to remember is our oven is the best place to bleed air out of our system. So before we go and use appliances like our tankless water heater system or our furnace, we want to try to avoid any initial fault codes that might come from air in our system. Air gets in our system from turning our propane tanks off when we store it, or let's say we ran out, we go change that tank out, so on and so forth. You're going to end up with air in your system somewhere down the line. So I always suggest to customers, one of the first things you want to do whenever you're setting up your camper is come on the inside, have your tanks on, and just light this stovetop. Once it's lit, let it burn for about 30 to 60 seconds and let all that air kind of burn out of that system. That will make sure that you don't have any air in there on whenever you initiate your other gas appliances, and you can avoid having any faults on those systems. Here in our mid-half bath, we do have that GFCI. This is our main breaker for those GFCIs in the event that you have an outlet that is not working. You want to come here first and check and see if this light right here is on. If that red light is on, that means that breaker is tripped. To reinitiate it, you're going to hit that reset button right there, and that light should go off and your outlets should go back to working. This red button is a test button. If you want to test that GFCI to make sure it's working properly, you can hit that and then reset it with the next button. Now also over here we do have our AirXL Max Air vent for the bathroom. Easy options: fan on, speeds 1, 2, 3, and 4, and fan off, and you can open and close that vent. We'll talk about our toilet system when we hit the rear bath. Now as we come up our steps to our living room area, we do have our onboard vacuum system. This vacuum system comes with the kit. You'll have your hose and stuff, and you can vacuum your unit. You insert your hose right here, and you go ahead and do what you need to do as far as cleaning your unit. Whenever you're done, you can close that off. Now when we want to empty out that bag, we hit that little hole right there at the top, pull down, and we'll have a bag on this notch right here. We take that bag, throw it away, insert a new one, and then we can reinstall our cover. In our living room area, we do have our TV operational by our switch over here in this cabinet. It is motorized lift on that TV system in order to run that up and down. Now once again, we do have our Key TV system. Anybody that is an old school camper, you know, the on-off button for your antenna boost, well, you don't have to worry about that with Keystone. Keystone provides us with that Key TV system, and you can swap between antenna and cable without having to worry about turning that antenna boost off or on, and you can scan for channels. In your unit, you'll also have the option for your WineGuard Wi-Fi LTE upgradable system. This is a component on here where if we upgrade to a router, then we can amplify the Wi-Fi signal at our campground, or we can get with a cellular provider and have a SIM card inserted on that router and have Wi-Fi with us wherever we go within that region of the provider. Now here we have our 110 operated fireplace. We'll go over the information on that now. Here we have our fireplace. We have a sensor right up here in the top right. We have to aim that remote at to turn it on. We have our Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature we can change to. And right here, this little flame icon is going to change the dimness of our flame. If we want to change the lighting of our flame, we hit the light bulb on the screen down here at the bottom, and it'll give you some different options right there. If we want to operate our heater on a timer, once again, electric heater, it is going to be this button right here. It looks like a clock, and when we push it, we can see some times pop up: 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all the way up to 8, and then it will go to 0 hours, letting you know that that timer is off. If we want to change our temperature, we'll use one of these two buttons at the bottom, and we can see once again we have a temperature down there, and we will go ahead and raise it until it kicks on, or lower it, we want it to kick off, or we can keep going until it says on, and that heater will stay running all the time. We kick it up one more time, and it's going to say OF, meaning that that system is off. In our living room, we also have our JBL radio system. This will control our inside speakers and outside speakers through the option of source A and B. You have Bluetooth operation on here to be able to hook up to your phone, and you can also scan for regular radio channels. Now here is your front AC system controlled by that touchscreen panel. All of your AC systems will be there. It does have a filter on here. We can go ahead and turn these two tabs, pull that filter off. We want to make sure that we're cleaning that properly every now and again, or replacing it if necessary. Your middle AC, also controlled by that touchscreen system, does have some filters right here on each side that will need to be cleaned fairly regularly. You do have adjustment vents on there to be able to distribute that air out. Most of your air is going to go through the ductwork on your ceiling that you see there. Whenever you operate your furnace, the air will come out of these floor ducts all throughout your unit. It will not come out of that rooftop air. On our island, we'll see a COLP detector right here. You need to test that regularly to make sure that alarm operates. We can see right here we have a green light on here. This lets us know that that system is powered up. It is a 12-volt powered safety component. This lets you know if any CO or LP were to be emitted in your unit, and if it goes off, you need to exit that. Now, our COLP detectors do have an expiration date on there. It's either printed on the front, or some styles you might have to unscrew it and it'll be stamped on the back. We need to make sure that we're taking care of that, as well as our smoke detector, which is operated by that 9-volt battery, just like the one in your house, and need to make sure we're changing that out properly as well. Not much to go over in our bedroom. As we said before, we do have the Key TV system. Same thing in our bedroom. You have the option for cable, antenna, or satellite. Over here we have our light switch for our bedroom lights, and we do have a dimmer for that as well. Pretty self-explanatory with our cable slide for our bed. We do have our third AC system. Once again, we have another filter in here. We need to make sure we're maintaining that properly. Now in our bathroom, of course, we have our toilet. Our toilet is where our sewage goes, and that's going to go to our black tank system. Remember, our black tank system needs to stay shut all the time until we're ready to dump it. Now, it's very important we only put RV toilet paper in there, as well as our chemicals, and only the sewage that's intended to go down a toilet. No other components. This will cause issues in the draining of your tank. Now, important information on our toilet is, if we're doing number one, just liquids, we can hit that pedal right there and flush it down the drain. Now, if we're doing number two, solids, we want to barely hold that pedal down and fill that bowl up about halfway with water, to make sure that when we do flush those solids, it has enough water to push it down into the tank. If we don't, we could cause issues with our plumbing, clogging, or anything else. So make sure we're doing that properly, and when we're done flushing out our system, we can come here, put several gallons of water into that tank, and add our chemicals. Over here to our left, we have our Girard tankless water heater system. We'll go over the operation of that now. Here we have our Girard tankless water heater control. We have our Celsius Fahrenheit button right here at the top left to swap between the two types of temperature. We have our on-off button, and we have our up and down that will change the temperature that we have set for our unit. Now, once we initiate our hot water, you'll see a couple of things happen. You'll see our temperature up here change to our output temperature, which is the temperature of the water coming out of our tankless water heater system. We'll also see a shower head icon at the bottom right. That shows that water is in use. And then we'll see our fan icon on the bottom left, lets us know that our tankless water heater system is initiating. Once we see the flame that pops up in the middle of our unit, that means that our system is actually heating that water, and we'll see that temperature begin to increase. Now, these systems only run for 20 minutes before going into a shutoff mode. In the event that you're still using hot water after that point, just turn the hot water off and turn it back on, and it will reinitiate and begin to heat water again. Now, our shower is pretty self-explanatory. You have your hot and cold knobs, but on our shower head, if we are dry camping, we're trying to conserve the amount of water we put into our gray tank as well as the amount of water we use out of our fresh tank. Now, a convenient way of doing that without having to try to find that sweet spot on our hot water every time, we can come to this shower head and turn it off and on right here while we lather up in between, and when we kick it back on, we just hit that button and our shower head will come back on. Now, I'll tell you out of experience, that first shot of water will be a little cold, so you might want to shoot that to the wall. And besides that, it's a convenient way to help you conserve water. On our shower doors, we want to make sure that we're using that travel latch. We'll need that whenever we are in travel to ensure that our shower door isn't rolling up and down the wall and smashing. And we also have that on all of our barn doors as well. You'll notice GFCI protected outlets once again in the bathroom. If you notice where there's an issue, we're going to go to that middle bathroom area and reset that breaker. We'll also notice in our bathroom we do have an exhaust vent up here, 12 volt operated. We open that vent and flip the switch. That way we can kick that 12 volt fan on and begin exhausting out of this bathroom. It's recommended that in your bathroom you exhaust whenever you take a shower or anything like that. That way you don't build up any moisture and humidity in here and cause any mold or mildew. Also, in our bathroom closet, we have 2 more GFCI protected outlets that we can go to in the event that some of them aren't working. We can reset them here. We also have our washer dryer prep. This is where our drain tube and our hot and cold water would be in order to install our washer dryer.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV SuperStores, where we bring the how-to you.